What's up? 411. That's actually a magic number. Lift the veil, 411, because 411 used to be what you called for information. I don't even know if people would know anymore what the numbers 411 are. Do you know anybody's phone number besides your significant other these days? Look at this. People are already here in the chat. Thank you. Little round box, I believe that is. That must be what it says in Japanese. 1999 super chat. I can just go home. Wait, I am home. Now I can just sign off. I could be like, oh, thanks for the super chat. I'll see you later. That's why you have to save it until a little bit into the show. No, I'm just kidding. Or you can just say, oh, I'll give you one. Just stay live. That would be really mean to do to somebody. Thanks, Little Round Box. Says, hope you're feeling better, Nate. You know, it might have been. It might have been because I took 2 Zen. I had a double decker in the top lip. 2 Zens. Because when I took one out, I had 2 in my hand. I was like, oh, God is telling me I need 2 Zens for my show. I don't know. But yeah, I got like real nauseous. I didn't throw up though in the end, but I didn't feel good. I feel good today. Everything's good today. I was listening about the aliens. Do you believe that 2025 is the year of disclosure? It just seems like there is a lot of stuff coming out. Do you believe the people? I guess that's the question. There's a guy that was just on Rogan for a long time. Psionics. Are you a psionic? What does it take to be a psionic? They say, I read somewhere that they're recruiting kids to be psychics for the government from GATE programs, GAT, which was called Gifted and Talented. Where I was from, the government, I don't know if they still do this. They probably do. The government tests you for your IQ when you're like 8 or something. And then if you have a high IQ, you go to a special government school. I did that. Thanks, Diligent Escape, who says, lift the Zen. Somebody pointed out that RFK popped in a Zen during his hearing and that we should hire him more. People believe in nicotine. Nicotine has powerful, it's a powerful cure for things like Parkinson's, for example. It's good for apparently. But yeah, nicotine. Oh, and also probably against COVID too. Thanks, Diligent Escape. Will says you would have to be dense to not see aliens are real, but I don't trust when they come to save us. That's Bluebeam. Well, what if they're just trying to shepherd us, kind of guide us? That's what the woo-woo people say. I think that they're like watching us progress and stuff, just trying to make sure we don't annihilate ourselves before progressing or evolving into something better, different. So, save us. I wonder. And then you have to wonder, like, if they can communicate telepathically, like, do they have the same God as us? That you would think, right? But the books don't say much about like what we're supposed to think about aliens. We're supposed to think that humans are the best. I mean, that's the truth. We're supposed to think humans are the best species, period, because God made us in his image to rule over everything. But we don't have, well, at least it's not confirmed that we have like anti-gravitational craft and the shit these aliens have. So they must be better than us somehow. Or does that, what do you think? They haven't killed us yet, as far as we know. They don't threaten us too much. People who've been abducted didn't like it. But yeah, so they're talking about, anyway, with the aliens, they're talking about psionics. People control the craft with their mind and then can make them land and stuff. So something happened at Esalen. So this one guy from News Nation is talking about it a lot. He claims Trump knows about the UFOs, but doesn't want to say anything because he's afraid he'll get killed. I have that clip. So that's in the news. I've been catching up on it. Oh, yeah, there was a plane crash. I don't have much to say about it. People are claiming that it was a remote control plane. But people have conspiracy theories about it. I can't confirm anything yet. They say the helicopter came from the CIA. And it just flew right into the plane, basically, which seems weird. So some people do have conspiracy theories about it. Some guy from Ancient Aliens claims his wife was reading about the crash hours in advance of it actually happening. So that's a weird claim. She said she read about the plane crash 2 hours before it happened. Think that's possible? When I was time traveling, I think I would think that was possible. I thought I saw the same news twice. I did have that experience where I was like, oh, it was actually the debt ceiling. Like I saw them make an announcement that they weren't doing the debt ceiling, and then apparently it hadn't happened yet, and then it happened later. I don't know. I felt like I saw it twice. So it's possible. That's only if you can time travel, though. So maybe maybe we're unleashing time travel. 4D, 5D, 4D. We're in 4D already, 4-dimensional, because we have time. 5D, beyond time. What do you think of that? Do you think you can handle it? I don't know. All right, I'll play the intro. We're 7 minutes in. Let's go. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news. The news isn't even real until I tell you about it, according to my theories. So, all right, yeah, there was a plane crash. I don't think I have anything to report on it, except for that guy who claims that he saw it. Oh, and then there were hearings today. That has to do with the title, right? I said Tulsi destroys Dems. Yes, Tulsi. There were 3 hearings today simultaneously, so you couldn't tune into all of them. I've hardly anything from Kash Patel, except for him calling himself a sand N-word with a hard R. That's the only clip people posted. I didn't see a lot, or I listened to some of it. The Kash Democrats are nasty. And then Tulsi Gabbard, she was good. She just got crucified though about Snowden just over and over and over again. They were telling her like she had to say that Snowden was it just shows you actually, like, I don't think most people agree with these people who were asking her questions. I think most people agree with Tulsi that Snowden isn't a traitor. Yeah, like he's a patriot. But that's what they went off on. That 702 warrantless spying, they want that. They love it on that committee. They just love it. They love spying on Americans, warrantless stuff. They can't stand. And then they asked Tulsi about chemical weapons attacks that were like false flags. And like she knew that. And like the chemical weapons attack in Duma, which, wasn't really. Gray Zone did a lot of reporting on it. And then RT at the time was putting out a bunch of stuff like the White Helmet staged this whole thing and it was fake. So Tulsi knew about that, and they were like, "Oh, you said these gas attacks didn't happen." She had to kind of say, "Oh yeah, they did." It sucks having to just bullshit people when you know what's up. You're like, "Oh no, the government, like we faked it. The white helmets, they're a psyop team." She didn't say that though. She did point out that we were funding terrorists, though. That was a good one. So I'll play that for you. Do you want the whole opening statement? I haven't seen it yet. So I have it queued up. It's 10 minutes. You want the whole opening statement from Tulsi? Or we'll play some of it, see how it goes. I haven't seen it, so I kind of wanted to see it. I like Tulsi. But I find she did have to say, she has to say she likes 702, which she doesn't. Then the stuff about Snowden is crazy. I guess she said, that he should be pardoned and stuff, which he should be. Be really cool if Trump pardoned him. But that's probably not going to happen. Let's see. So those three things happened today. I don't know if everybody's going to get confirmed. I just don't know. I would think they would be. But Tulsi is maybe is going to be the hardest, I think. Because people on these senators don't like her opinions. So, all right, I'll show. Let's see if her opening statement is engaging enough for us to listen to the whole thing. Let's see. Tulsi Gabbard with her streak of gray hair.
I'm honored and grateful to President Trump for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve our country as the Director of National Intelligence at a time when trust in the intelligence community, unfortunately, is at an all-time low. Chuck Schumer admitted a few years ago, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." For too long, faulty, inadequate, or weaponized intelligence have led to costly failures and the undermining of our national security and God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution. The most obvious example of one of these failures is our invasion of Iraq based upon a total fabrication or complete failure of intelligence. This disastrous decision led to the deaths of tens of thousands of American soldiers, millions of people in the Middle East, mass migration, destabilization, and undermining of the security and stability of our European allies, the rise of ISIS, strengthening of Al-Qaeda and other Islamist jihadist groups, and strengthening Iran. Here are just a few other examples. The American people elected Donald Trump as their president not once but twice, and yet the FBI and intelligence agencies were politicized by his opponents to undermine his presidency and falsely portray him as a puppet of Putin. Title I of FISA was used illegally to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, using a Clinton campaign-funded false dossier as their so-called evidence.
People are pointing out her bright white outfit, full white outfit, saying she looks futuristic.
Biden campaign advisor Tony Blinken was the impetus for the 51 former senior intelligence officials' letter dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation specifically to help Biden win the election. Former DNI James Clapper lied to this committee in 2013, denying the existence of programs that facilitated the mass collection of millions of Americans' phone and internet records, yet was never held accountable. Under John Brennan's leadership, the CIA abused its power to spy on Congress, to dodge oversight, lied about doing it until he was caught, and yet has never been held responsible. Under Biden, the FBI abused its power for political reasons to try to surveil Catholics who attend traditional Latin Mass, labeling them as quote-unquote radical traditionalist Catholics. Personally, just 24 hours after I criticized Kamala Harris and her nomination, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. Sadly, there are more examples. The bottom line is this must end. President Trump's re-election is a clear mandate from the American people to break this cycle of failure, end the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community, and begin to restore trust in those who've been charged with the critical task of securing our nation. If confirmed as DNI, I will do my very best to fulfill this mandate and bring leadership to the intelligence community with a laser-like focus on our essential mission, ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. As the President's principal intelligence advisor, I'll begin by leading by example, checking my own personal views at the door, and committing to delivering intelligence that is collected, analyzed, and reported without bias, prejudice, or political influence. I enlisted in the Army because of the horrific terrorist attack on September 11th and volunteered to deploy to Iraq in 2005, where I served in a medical unit. After nearly 22 years in uniform with 3 combat deployments to the Middle East and Africa, I'm now a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, where I serve as a battalion commander of soldiers in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. I served in Congress for 8 years on the Homeland Security, Foreign Affairs, and Armed Services committees. And it's my experience in the military and in the halls of Congress that have given me a deep understanding of the complex challenges that our nation faces, in both roles engaging with world leaders, in both roles being privy to highly classified intelligence. So I know firsthand how essential accurate, unbiased, and timely intelligence is to the President, to Congress, and to our warfighters. I also know the heavy cost of intelligence failures and abuses. Senator Collins, you led the creation of ODNI specifically to address those intelligence failures of 9/11 and Iraq's so-called WMDs. The need for the ODNI under strong leadership still exists today. If confirmed, I'll bring my experience and fresh eyes to leading the intelligence community. And my day one priorities will be to assess the global threat environment, identify where gaps in our intelligence exist, integrate intelligence elements, increase information sharing, and ensure that unbiased, apolitical, objective collection and analysis to support the President and policymakers' decision-making occur. I'll work to end the politicization of the intelligence community and ensure there is a clear mission focus in the IC on its core mission of this unbiased, apolitical collection and analysis of intelligence to secure our nation. I'll work to rebuild trust through transparency and accountability. This is a national security imperative. And I'll work to assess and address efficiencies, redundancies, and effectiveness across ODNI to ensure focus of personnel and resources is on.
All right, that's fine. I got a little dry. She says she's going to do her job if she gets through. So I honestly don't know what the chances are. I was thinking that they wouldn't put these people up if they didn't think they were going to get voted for. But big ones today: Kash, Tulsi, and RFK had his second hearing today. So this was a highlight moment from the hearing where she was asked by the fake astronaut, Mark Kelly, about saying that we funded terrorists. Like, he can't believe that she said we funded Al-Qaeda. So I'll play that and her response.
Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Gabbard, when Russia was denying us use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential...
Klaus Schwab is like, but it's true. Yeah, I know. This is the one line of attack. Is like, well, the Russians said that that this chemical attack wasn't real and that we support terrorists. So, and then you said it. That was their line of questioning. It's like the Russians said that blah, blah, blah. Then you said the same thing. And it's like, she's like, yeah, but it's true. So, like, what am I spreading Russian propaganda? So they pretty much accused her of spreading Russian propaganda just because she told the truth. which he wouldn't know about because he's a fake astronaut.
Debate stage. You said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after Al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after Al-Qaeda, our president is supporting Al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of Al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping Al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with Al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like Al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
And
not in our
I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, Al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Thank you.
There you go. Things are going to be different if she's the boss. She's a good girl boss. Things are going to be way different if she's in there. But man, they're not going to like, they just don't like it. They don't like transparency. They like the government having lots of power. They like spying. They don't like whistleblowers. So, yeah, then they asked her a bunch about Snowden. She wouldn't call him a traitor. Let's see what else I got going on for you guys. So she did well. And we'll see. I don't know if this is her only hearing or what, when the vote's going to be. But we're almost getting the serious people in. RFK, Tulsi, and Kash. I don't think there's any issues with Kash. I think he's getting in. But RFK and Tulsi, we have to see still. So I have Bernie versus RFK once again in his hearing today. So I'll play that for you.
So let me ask Mr. Kennedy again. If we want to make America healthy, will you assure the American people that you will fight to do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to every single American.
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will
we're the
you
sickest.
guarantee do what every other major country
And-
does? That's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry
Oh, no,
and
no,
protecting their interests.
No, I thought that would, no. I ran for president like you.
He's fine. He's
I
a
got
meme.
millions
I know.
and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
Because I had
receiver of
full
pharmaceutical money.
contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
You were the
missed not a nickel from corporate
Bernie,
PACs.
you were the single largest
From
acceptor of
working-
pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in the industry.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered, last question. You have not answered my question.
Mr.
How the
Chairman,
heck
we're
do we
3
make
minutes
Ask you a
over.
question.
How do we
We're-
make
he is-
America
Miss-
healthy if you don't guarantee health
Chairman,
care
we're
to all
literally
people?
3 minutes over here now.
Well, so are other
How long
people.
does it keep going? At some time, you're just battering the witness,
Not
Bernie.
battering the witnesses. I'm
Yes,
trying
you
to get
are.
an answer.
And
Folks, I'm not.
There you go. That was from Alex Jones. So there's Bernie versus RFK talking about. So I just don't know the answer to that. He says he claims that the money that they say is from pharmaceutical, big pharma, is actually from their workers. Don't know about that. He's trying to get guaranteed health care. I kind of agree with that. I mean, some kind of basic health care guaranteed for citizens. Yeah, that'd be kind of good. I mean, be something. Healthcare is like it's so ridiculously expensive to get, and then if you get sick, you got to pay more. It's like it doesn't even cover you. It's expensive, then it doesn't cover you. It's like the worst possible. The only thing we have going for us is like you can get a doctor's appointment here, where in a lot of socialist places you can't. They say their healthcare programs are all screwed up. Well, it's because they want us to be sick. They prefer it that way. Rand Paul went off at RFK Jr.'s hearing. I guess I want to hear that. Oops, I screwed up. So I want to hear that. Rand Paul went off at RFK's hearing. Let's play that.
I think the discussion over vaccines is so oversimplified and dumbed down that we never really get to real truths. And it's why people up here are so separated from real people at home. So we talk about hepatitis B. It's a terrible disease. It could lead to liver failure, as the chairman said. But the reason you have distrust from people at home, why they don't believe anything you say, they don't believe government at all, is you're telling my kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't resist vaccines, I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one size fits all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, the reporters run up and down the hall and they say, "You still anti-vaccine?" No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine, and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science says this and the science says that, no, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Look it up. No healthy child died from COVID. And so the thing is that It's 1,000-fold greater. So if you ask me my advice as a physician, if you were 65 or older or overweight and some other conditions, I would have said, hell yes, I'd take the COVID vaccine. The risks of the disease were real and much greater than the vaccine. But if you ask me, should my healthy 6-month-old get it? See, these are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say, it is this and admit to it or we're not going to appoint you. But it's more complicated than that. And this is why people distrust government, because you're unwilling to have these conversations. And go home, ask your Democrat young mothers, your Republican young mothers, if they're vaccinating their kid for hepatitis B. And they're like, well, do I have to do it on day one? It's this precious little baby. Is there science to say you shouldn't do it? Probably not, but it's my kid. You know, it's like there isn't clear-cut science saying not to. But on autism, there's no good science of anything to show what causes autism. We don't know. It's a profound disease. I know many moms here and dads who have kids with autism. I know them personally. I've met their kids. But the thing is they saw their kids developing completely normal, maybe speaking 100 words go to no words at about 15 months of age. Now, there isn't proof. There isn't proof that the vaccines cause it. That's true. There isn't proof that it causes it, but we don't know what causes it yet. So shouldn't we be at least open-minded? We take 72 vaccines. Could it be? I don't know. But we shouldn't just close the door and say we're no longer, because we believe so much in submission, we're not going to have an open mind to study these things. And so it's sort of this crazy notion. Schizophrenia, I would put in the same notion. You have a kid who's completely normal to 18 or 19, and their brain goes haywire. How does that happen? It's the most bizarre disease. Shouldn't we be open? Could it be our food? It might be vaccines. It might be our food, but autism is more common. I don't know about the schizophrenia statistics, but autism is more common. Shouldn't we want to be open-minded? Instead, we're so close-minded and we're so consensus-driven that the science says this. Well, science doesn't say anything. Science is a dispute, and 10 years from now, we could all be wrong. We were told in the beginning, 20 years ago, they did this enormous study, and they said, everybody over 50 should take an aspirin. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. It makes sense. But you know what? 20 years later, they measured it, and they found if you had no heart disease and you were taking aspirin, your chance of dying from a brain bleed or from a stomach bleed were greater than the risk of heart disease. If you have heart disease, they still say take an aspirin. If you don't, they've changed their mind 20 years later. But would you have all said I was crazy and I should no longer be in public discourse if I had said 20 years ago, I don't feel like taking an aspirin. I ride my bike all the time. I'm afraid I might hit my head. But that's what country's about. It's what dissent is about. So just ask you to look at the larger picture and give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science where it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say. Sorry, I didn't get to a question.
For the record, if a child is born to a hepatitis B mother, that child may have a 95% chance of becoming a chronic carrier. But if
we vaccinate those people, and nobody's against that.
But if the child,
that's a very small percentage and a red herring. That is not what we're talking about. 99.9% of kids don't have a hepatitis B, Mom. And could they wait a while? Could they get vaccinated 3 months or a year? Yes.
So again, for the record, if the mother's hepatitis B status is known, then that can be delayed. The problem is oftentimes, or at least a significant percentage of the time, the mother's status is not known. If she's hepatitis B positive, a vaccine on day one of life prevents chronic hepatitis B 95% of the time. So it really depends upon the knowledge of the mother's hepatitis B status. And when they used to do just, okay, we know the mother's status or not, there was mothers that snuck through. Their status was unknown. We can blame the OBs, yeah, Marshall. But for the record, there is an absolute rationale for that. But you're right. If the mother status is definitively known, that it can be safely delayed. So now, Senator Murray.
There you go. I think that's the guy that they're saying might vote against Kennedy. I think Cassidy. And he was like the head of this committee. And he was a doctor. I guess he's like an MD or something. Which Rand Paul is too, right? So anyway, that's the guy supposedly that is a wild card who might vote against RFK. But Rand Paul's right. People question vaccines more. Like senators don't really represent regular people. Doesn't seem like. All right. I'm gonna have UFO stuff soon. We did Tulsi. I'm gonna get the Kash Patel clip that's out there. He says the N-word. So he talks about how he's threatened and stuff by evil Democrats for being nominated. All right. Let's see. Let's see what this clip is.
Fortunately, Senator, yes. I want to get into those details with my family here.
Oh, let's get into a few of them. Tell me about it.
Well, if you look at the record from January 6th, where I testified before that committee, because of my personal information being released by Congress, I was subjected to a direct and significant threat on my life. And I put that information in the record. I had to move. In that threat, I was called a detestable, and I'll apologize if I don't get it all right, but it's in the record, a detestable sand nigger who had no right being in this country. You should go back to where you came from. You belong with your terrorist home friends. That's what was sent to me. That's just a piece of it. But that's nothing compared to what the men and women in law enforcement face every day. And that's why they have my support.
Okay.
There you go. So he dropped the N-word. Detestable sand N-word after January 6th. So that's the only clip people were posting from it. I didn't hear the Patel hearing. I think he's going to get through, though. So, all right. That's the news, I think, from the hearings today. Now I'm going to do the UFO news I have. So let's do that now. So Trump knows about UFOs. That's one thing. Thanks everybody for being here. Oh, I was going to make here, I'll make a goal. See if people want to give us super chats today. Thanks for the super chats already, though. Those were nice. 1 hour. Thanks for being here. Here we go. Let's see. Donald Trump. This is this guy. He works for, what is it, News Nation? It's not Newsmax. News Nation? Or Newsmax. Here's him talking about Donald Trump knowing about UFOs. Here we go.
When I know, for example, Trump's been briefed. You know what's going on? He's scared. He's scared they're going to kill him if he reveals what he knows. That's what I've been told. You have a situation where your potential president is terrified of speaking about the UAP issue because he's scared they're going to knock him. I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this up. This is serious. You know, you have a national scandal at the heart of this. It's not just about UFOs. It's about your country. It's totally screwed unless you resolve this issue. It should be the dominant political issue. If you can get this secret out, the world will change overnight. And I've heard that from people in the program. They're deeply, deeply angry that this secret is being suppressed. They see no good reason. One of the reasons it's being suppressed is because America has made weapons, dreadful weapons. Are you proud of that? Is that really what we want to do from technology that we've obtained by using offensive weaponry against a fairly benevolent, non-human intelligence? Is that really how we want to define our first contact? Because that's what we're talking about here. And I don't know how to communicate this more seriously.
So Trump knows about the aliens. Rumors are they talked to presidents before. So I wouldn't be surprised. He's afraid he's going to die. So this is going to be it. So let's see. Here's oh, it's kind of UAP. I was going to play that for you. I played something about it yesterday. People aren't happy with the drone excuse still that the FAA approved those drones in New Jersey. All right, let's play. I'll just play a couple clips. See what you get out of them. UAPs, retrieval teams, apparently. And then there's this Sky Watcher movie that came out, which interviewed some of these people. Oh, and they documented like craft. Like they did summon craft. They said they could summon craft, and they did, apparently. So let's see. Here's part of the Skywatcher movie. Let's see.
Jordan, I really appreciate you joining us here today.
Alex, it's an honor to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
So maybe let's start by sharing a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So most recently, I worked in the space technology space, a little bit of data science, ultimately taking different imagery types and trying to solve solutions for the utility industry.
I'm curious, by chance, do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
I'm certain of that.
You're certain? How certain are you?
100%.
I mean, Jordan, that's a pretty bold statement. Where does that certainty come from?
That certainty comes from my firsthand experience in what I term a psionic exploitation program between the years of 2005 and 2010, where I interfaced and worked with non-human intelligence and things like UAP directly.
I mean, Jordan, that is an incredible claim. For the viewer at home, what were you doing in this program on a daily basis?
Yeah, so this would look at like things that many people would consider woo-woo-y, right? Like astral projection or meditation. But ultimately, what we were really investigating was how far could we stretch the bounds of human consciousness. Beyond that, how could we get human consciousness to interface directly with things like recovered materials and recovered crafts? What I can tell you from the craft and some of the different projects that we worked on directly is ultimately that they interfaced with us. What I mean by that is my consciousness could project into these craft and recovered materials and then access a suite of commands, essentially capabilities to do various things, including piloting. But ultimately, the story is not about piloting some UAP with your mind. The story is much more about what is consciousness?
Yeah.
Why can we interface with these things?
Do you have material that supports these claims?
I have tons of material, linearly autobiographical records that will support my claims.
Yeah. Anyway, then they go out there with a couple of these psionic freaks, and they summon craft and stuff. That's what he says. He says he interfaced with the damn things. I think let's see. We're going to find out some stuff. I think. All right. Then here's this other guy that was just on Rogan. He's a little bit less. It's hard to understand everything, but he says basically that we were talking to the aliens. I don't know, like on a phone call. And they threatened, they call it the program, the thing these people are involved with. So let's check out this clip.
How does the conversation go where the non-human intelligence gets brought up?
That was just like the two of them that when I picked up the call and started the recording on it, there was some guy that was there at Right Pat, and apparently he had been talking to this Eben. And he said, yeah, up today's session, we got some more information you need to hear about. This is what is going to happen. He says that there's going to be another meeting, and that if we don't return the equipment and the prisoners, there's going to be some bad things happen.
We have prisoners.
Yes. This is what they said on the phone call. And the other guy's like, well, hey, what if we can't get them, to return all the equipment and the people? And the guy that had given the interview, he's like, you don't want to do that. And the guy's like, well, why? He said, if you don't, they're going to be put to death. And I was like, I literally stepped back for a minute, and I was like, what's going on here? So I had to finish out the call. They talked about sundry other things, just stupid stuff.
Can you be a little bit more clear? Like, who is going to be put to death?
The program folks that are responsible for keeping the tech that's not theirs, and also, doing things to these extraterrestrials.
How did they allegedly acquire this tech?
Retrievals.
retrievals.
Yeah, when I was first introduced into the program, one of the very first things they asked me is, do you want to be part of the retrieval program? And I said, well, tell me about it. And when they said the things they said, I was like, no. Number one, it sounds gross. Number two, you probably can't give me enough PPE gear and hazmat gear to make me feel safe around these things. And no, I'm not interested in that. Thank you very much.
So how do they describe it that freaked you out that much? They're talking about biological entities that are retrieved along with the crash.
Yes.
Why do they crash if they're so fucking smart? That's always the big question, right?
Well, I think the new guy on the block, Jake Barber, he's describing some of the ways that you can do this psionically. I guess his psionic team, he's going to start showing some of that to the world. That some of these craft are manned and piloted by consciousness, and apparently they have a psionics team that can actually get in the headspace of these craft and cause them to land. So it's not really a forced landing; it's just kind of a mutual thing.
So wait a minute, the United States government has the ability to contact or interact with these craft and force them to land?
Yes, and then there's other ones that are done kinetically, which is more the scary side of it. And the ugly side of the program is that what you've got here is it's not so much the military doing this, but the corporate people like Lockheed, Northrop, and all these other companies. They treat this stuff as very high value target kind of stuff, and it's very valuable for them to get the retrievals. So you've got really what amounts to a bunch of treasure hunters that are hired with mercenaries involved as well that go out for these retrievals. And that's where Jake Barber comes in, is that he sees some of these people that are hired to come out and retrieve this stuff, and he's done that.
So the idea would be that the retrievals would be very valuable because you could back engineer the tech, figure out how it works, make weapon systems, make superior crafts.
Exactly.
I highlighted Pirate Justin's comment. He says, dude is a fucking LARPer. Pirate Justin does not believe in aliens. He says, show me one. Show me. Well, they did. You can check out this documentary. He goes with people who claim they can summon UFOs, and then they see some UFOs, basically, or one in particular, when this guy said he was interfacing with it. So check it out. You'll see. And then, yeah, what about all the stories about him? You think all the people, there have been lots of stories about aliens for a long time. Some people have seen them. They draw them and stuff. So, I tend to think some of those stories must be true. And the similarities of the stories and the drawings that come from different places. They like draw the same alien with the big eyes and stuff. You think it's just us though? Maybe. Or like in the past, we were super advanced and then they could live underwater and we couldn't find them. I didn't think about that hard enough. I guess they say, they go to depths that we couldn't go to because we'd be crushed. Anything we know of would be crushed at the depths we've seen them go to. So they could have whole things going on down there, I guess, which we couldn't visit or anything. Underwater, other planets. I don't know. I've been thinking about the flat Earth. The one thing about the flat Earth, well, there are different things about it, or us just being the center of the universe. It does seem like we're the center of the universe because everything rotates around us. Like there's no, it's not logical that stars would all stay in exactly the same place relative to us over tens of thousands of years if we're spinning around the sun and hurtling through space. It just doesn't make sense. All these constellations, there's no parallax or anything, the stars. So it does seem like we're the center of the universe, in which case we may be the only place that there's life. But then there are apparently advanced life forms, apparently more advanced than us, but then we can control them and bring them down and hold them prisoner. I don't know how that works. Former artist says, there are no aliens. That'd be ridiculous. Maybe not. What do you think the craft are? The orbs and stuff. Interesting. Well, we're looking into it. We're seeing definitely a lot of talk about it these days in the public consciousness. So it seems that the awareness has been leveled up. So we'll see. Lance Ripley wants to know what I'm talking about. I have no idea. Lance. You tell me. I don't know what's happening. All right. So that's the news I have for you guys today. I went over everything. I'll get more news for you tomorrow. Things are happening in this world, in this galaxy. And I'll be back. I'll try to be back tomorrow, okay? For a 4 p.m. show, 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's here, right here, the Lift the Veil channel. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the super chats. Thanks, Little Round Box and Diligent Escape for the super chats. I appreciate you guys. You're cool. All right, we'll see you at the next one. For now, that's what it is.